Aloha, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, and it's 5 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. in Hawaii. I am coming on to do my almost every week live coaching. I do it on almost every Tuesday and Thursday, and then I do it in X Space on Fridays. So remember, these are best suited to doing coaching one on one with a volunteer. So if you haven't recently done any coaching with me on these live streams, please be sure to volunteer if you're interested in doing some one on one coaching with me. I have topics that I can always talk about, but I specifically prefer to do it in real time based on a real issue that a trader is navigating. What else did I want to say? I want to thank our sponsor, Centerpoint. If you guys will take a look, you'll see in the chat that I've put a special link for especially for active day traders. So do check it out. See if they are a fit for you. Again, their customer service is superlative. How are you, Alex? I'm so glad you're here. Good to have you in this space. I'm going to open up X as well to just put this link here. Let's see if I can get that done. Ultimately, what these are hopefully doing is giving everybody a sense that the challenges you guys are up against is normal. I think there's a lot of traders who are very hard on themselves because they're coming from this place thinking that they're the only ones. And I'm hoping that this shows you guys you're not the only one. I'm glad you're here too, BTO. And of course, it's good to see you, Tina. So I'm going to put up both of these links. Let's see. Please check out our sponsor. All right. So let me know if I have anybody here who's going to raise their hand for some speed coaching today. All right. I put that up on X too. So I'm not seeing any volunteers yet. So that's too bad. But if anybody does want to have some speed coaching, raise your hand now. One of the things I did want to talk about today is you'll see a short of mine that is going to launch at some point this week. And I wanted to just talk to you guys about how trying too hard can sometimes sabotage a trader. There's a phenomena here in Hawaii that's called the green flash. It happens at sunset if the horizon line is clear, there's no clouds. Then there is this magical phenomenon where you see a green flash just as the sun is setting. It's that last kind of second or two as it goes below the horizon line. There's like this flash of green. And when I first came to Hawaii, I was with people at sunset. Almost everybody stops what they're doing to watch the sunset here, which is a really beautiful practice. So I was, always with other people, and I'd be looking for it so hard, and one or two people, not everybody. Carson, it's good to have you here. Does the green flash happen in the Caribbean? I didn't know that. That is so cool to know. Very cool. But in the beginning, when I first was having these people around, oh wow, look at that. It was so beautiful. Did you see it? It was so quick, Kim. And I was always like, no, I didn't see it. And I must have been, just missing it by a second. But here is what I discovered when I finally saw it. First of all, at least for me, the first time I saw it, it wasn't really so much of a green flash, although I have seen those now too, but it was like a green hue. Okay. A green hue is a little bit gentler and a little less noticeable if you're looking for, a clap, like it's going to be lightning or something. So, what it taught me, and what I'm trying to get across to all of you guys right now, is that when we are so trying to be perfect, trying to figure it out, trying so hard, we contract ourselves. We go into a contraction. Our breathing becomes more shallow. Our mind becomes much more limited with what you could call, blinders on, right? If you've ever seen horses, when, in New York City, we had horses up around Central Park, and all those horses were having to deal with traffic, and they had blinders on the horses permanently set up like that so they weren't distracted by the bicyclists and the truckers when they took them out of Central Park, right? So I want you to think about the fact that when you are coming into the energy of have to, must, should, you have left your sense of independence, and you have started to go into the land of usually the inner saboteur, the inner gremlin. That gremlin is saying you should do this, you by now you could have done that. Should, would, could, or have to, must are all the language of the gremlin. So keep an eye out for that. Just like you said, BTO, right? Forcing something will have the opposite effect. What it does when you get into the energy of the have to energy, or like that was my energy, right? Trying to see the green flash. I was coming from a place of, I have to see it. I've been here so long. Why can't I see it? Right? All of that was shrinking me and contracting me. Everything was tightening up. Yes, those pesky gremlins, they are such sons of guns. And that kept me probably from seeing that green flash for way longer than I would have had I relaxed a little bit into trusting that myself, but also that the universe would put it in front of me at the perfect time. So I think what this is really in service to this conversation today is self trust. Most traders, especially in the first few years, are putting so much pressure on themselves that you guys are missing some of the things that are sort of common sense because you are so short of oxygen, because you're breathing so shallowly. And that is keeping you from really connecting to perhaps some of the big picture. PTO says, I read somewhere that this is because we haven't learned a lesson we need to learn. Yes, I do think that's possible, but I do think sometimes the lesson you guys need to learn is to chillax, right? But the chillaxing takes confidence. And I am not advocating you guys step into hubris with your trading, but you don't seem to spend, in general, this is a generalization. I don't hear a lot of traders really pull apart their successes or spend time getting investigative, becoming investigative about what the successes are that you've had. What were the variables? It seems like you guys just pass over that and go straight to, what am I doing wrong? How can I do it better? You need to pause sometimes and really acknowledge how far you've come. Like, I want you guys to know the depth and the detail of how far you've come, much much as you understand all the mistakes. I could ask everybody right now to type, some of their big, embarrassing mistakes as a trader. And I don't think anybody here would hesitate to tell me at least 1 to 5 stories in a heartbeat. But can you do that as well for all the wins? Can you tell me all the variables of the successes you've had? Is as specific and in as much detail If not, then you got to take a look at what is stopping you from paying as close attention to what you do well, what you do right. And this may sound really silly and certainly is not derogatory to this cohort of people, God bless them. But if you're not under a bridge shooting heroin, you got yourselves a win, guys, right? Life can be hard. Most people are coming from a less than ideal childhood at a minimum. All of you here listening to this conversation has somehow been able to navigate your life thus far with either a lot of tragedy or a little tragedy, or even the tragedy of not having tragedy, which can also be its own challenge for some people. I want you to start to think to yourself, there's a lot of different choices you could have made thus far in your life. And I want you to start to really keep track, take notice of all that you have succeeded at. There are pivot points, there are specific choices each of us make every day that can completely change the course and trajectory of our lives. What are all the choices you have made already for yourself, not just in your trading, but of course included there too? What are those choices? How have you been succeeding? How have you accomplished what you've accomplished? What do you attribute to? What are the qualities, the strengths that you have? If you, again, don't feel equipped to come on this right now and tell me all of those wonderful qualities about you, choices you've made, then you've got to realize you've spent too much time in the doing place and not enough time on the being of how you have shown up. So, this is all in service to, yes, discipline's going to be necessary. Yes, screen time's going to be necessary. Yes, reading books, listening to gurus, watching how other traders trade. All of that is necessary, but you've got to do it in the infamous 38 Special song loosely. You have to focus. Yes, you have to be disciplined, but you have to hold it loosely, because when you hold it way too tight, just like 38 Special says, you can lose control. And I don't want you to lose control. So you want to realize, okay, there's some things here. Am I holding too tight? Am I coming from this have to, must, should energy with any area of my life? And sometimes, traders, it's better and easier for you to find the have to, must, should outside of your trading. Because if you're doing it outside of your trading, I can promise you, you're doing it in your trading too. But start slow. Start with the low lying fruit. The low lying fruit is where and how am I holding on too tight in my life? And then you can bring that over to where you're holding on too tight to your trading. All right, I'm going to pause there. Take a sip of my iced tea. All right. If anybody is here that wants some live coaching and you haven't been coached recently, then feel free to raise your hands and come on in to the room. I'll give you the link, but I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand, so I'll keep waxing on. Please do tell me, though, if you have any questions, even if you're not going to come on for some live coaching, but you do want a matter addressed. Couple of things. You can put it in the chat box here. If you're on X now or LinkedIn or YouTube, I think even Instagram, those questions should show. I'm not sure I've ever seen an Instagram question. So anyway, give it a shot. If it looks like I'm not answering your question and it came in on Instagram, then tell me in my DMs if you can hop over to X to tell me that so I know. And then I can read your question from my DMs. What was the other thing that I wanted to talk about? You know, it's funny. It's a little bit of the similar topic of the not hold trying too hard. But the other thing that recently happened was there was a guy that I kind of know peripherally in town. I just see him infrequently. And he is absolutely handsome as hell. I mean, over the top handsome. I don't know if you knew that French actor Alain that just passed away a couple of days ago. Like that kind of handsome, movie star handsome, right? Model handsome. But this guy, I'm not sure what he does for a living. It's just like a small hello every once in a while when I see him. And I'm not even interested in him. Like, trust me, I like good looking men, but it's not there, right? The spark isn't there. But the thing that I find fascinating about him is something that I've also found fascinating about a friend of mine from many, many years ago who had the same quality this guy. She was stunningly gorgeous, like model without a stitch of makeup on, just like shone like a movie star. She too had no idea how beautiful she was. So I just saw him and it made me think of that friend and the girlfriend. And I was like, this is so fascinating. Here's two people who both have movie star looks, like stunningly perfectly sculpted faces, right? Cheekbones, eyes, like just sheer perfection. And both of them never had an idea. And I'm not talking, oh, they were humble. No, this went beyond humility, especially this guy. I haven't seen that friend for years, but he reminded me of her this morning too. He has no idea that he is good looking. I mean, zero. I don't think he has possibly ever been told, or probably more true, ever believed anybody that told him. So, why am I bringing this up? There are things sometimes right in front of us, reflecting back to us in the mirror that we don't see. What could be the ones that you guys have, right? A guy and a gal who are like movie star handsome, and neither of them ever sort of seems to integrate. This guy is probably in his late 40s, early 50s. And like I said, I see him just in random places around town. But I see him, I'm like, he is stunning. Like you do a double take. And yet his body language, the way he talks and interacts with people, even the way he dresses, indicates no sense of awareness that he is that good looking. And I thought back to this girlfriend of mine from years ago. And I thought, God, she was the same way. She had no idea. Every time we'd walk into a room, every guy would check her out, and plenty of girls too. Like she was magnificent. She had no clue. And then when somebody would try to tell her, she would poo poo it. And of course, I told her all the time, like, she'd be like, how does this dress look? I'm like, oh, it's fabulous. Like, you can wear a paper bag and you're going to look good, because she was that beautiful. She had no sense of it. And I just thought today, seeing that guy again, how sad, how criminal that two people, probably there's millions more, were graced, were blessed with good DNA, right? Good genes. They had nothing to do with it. And yet they are immune to it. They don't even see that quality that they bring. It made me just realize how many things like that do each of us have? How many times are there things about us that our friends and loved ones will repeatedly compliment us on, and we don't take it seriously and dismiss it, right? It's again similar to the things that are potentially right in front of us that we don't even allow ourselves to receive, possibly because of false humility, possibly because our inner gremlin is telling us they don't know what they're talking about. They're just saying that to, get to take advantage of you later. Or, oh, that's what people say when they're looking to get a favor. Like, there's a million ways a compliment can be dismissed. There's a million ways where you might be proud of yourself about something you've accomplished or done, or just the way you look, or your fitness, or your willingness to stick it out as a treater. But I want you guys to look at how many times when you have received that compliment, were you able to let it in? Just curious if you guys will answer in the chat box. How many times have you guys, what do you say when you get a compliment? Whether it's about a nice top you have on, or a haircut for the guys, or, somebody asks your thoughts and you give them input about XYZ, and they say, wow, that was such good advice. Thank you. How have you guys responded to compliments and or to acknowledgments? Is anybody willing to share? I would love to know. I'm curious how many people here actually receive the compliment. I'm curious what you do or say when you receive a compliment. Very hard to accept any compliments. Thank you for sharing, Carson. Dale, I have a bad tendency to dismiss it as well and downplay it. Alex C., I usually dismiss it. So thank you all for speaking that forward. Here's part of what informs our discomfort with compliments. Thank you, John H. and Tina. Downplay it. Here is what's required to receive a compliment. Are you guys ready? You have to be vulnerable. For a compliment to actually be received, for a compliment to land, you're going to have to actually become vulnerable. You're going to actually have to step into a little feminine energy. Knowing I have had the bad tendency, I'm aware of it and trying to prevent it, Dale. That's excellent. I'm so glad. Here's the key. You want to realize that if you struggle with compliments, that tells you that you struggle with vulnerability. And here's the thing about vulnerability. If there have been parts of your life where vulnerability would cause you to be at risk, it's understandable that you might actually be hesitant to feel vulnerable, right? Therefore, uncomfortable with a compliment and do your damnedest to dismiss it. But I want you to really hear this, and this is, a book that I've referenced again and again, Alice Miller's book, The Drama of the Gifted Child. She talks about how we have to operate in a certain way in the young days of our childhood. We do have to navigate certain things in a special way to get through it. So there is a drama, and we as children adapt to that environment, and we shut off our authentic self. We sculpt and kind of twist and turn pieces of ourselves so that we can navigate whatever that environment is. And what I want you guys to see is that it's fantastic. We have the capacity, the gift to do that. But at some point, we leave that family of origin. We move out. We move towns. We start to live and have other people in our life. But the question becomes, how often, though, do we take that behavior, that fear of vulnerability with us into the new chapter, into the new life that we're living? And if we haven't, we want to step back now and take a hard look. Wow, is it possible that my fear of vulnerability is an old story that no longer serves me, is an old way of responding back based on that environment I was in, but now it isn't necessary? That is the first step. You want to have some empathy for the fact that you are uncomfortable with compliments, because think about it. Everybody needs to be seen. It's one of the basic universal needs, to see and be seen, to understand and be understood, right? These are basic needs. So just think about it, guys. All the times you've gotten a compliment and you haven't allowed it to come in, what you have basically done is rejected gas that helps fill up your gas tank. Every time you dismiss it and downplay it and say, or start to go into this tight contraction inside, feeling uncomfortable, you're doing that disservice to you because you just would have had some of your basic needs met, but you rejected it because you were too afraid it would leave you vulnerable. And that's what I want everybody here to start to pay attention to. Not to mention that you also leave the person who gave you the compliment high and dry. Giving compliments to somebody, and when that person doesn't receive it, the person who's given the compliment, this is what usually happens for them. Well, I'm never giving them another compliment again, because it feels like you're offering them a gift. You're like, you're beautiful, or I love your blouse, or that was an amazing treat that you saw ahead of time. And you're like, I don't need it. That's basically what it's like. It's the energy of saying, I'm good without this. That makes the person who's trying to gift you with an acknowledgement feel like they haven't been heard, like they haven't been understood. It is an awkward, uncomfortable place. And here's the thing, I think all of you can relate to it, because I would bet the farm everybody here has complimented somebody else once before, or many times before, and watched that person dismiss it and dismiss you, dismiss your acknowledgement. How does that feel? Does anybody remember the last time they gave somebody a compliment and that person would not receive it? Does anybody remember what that felt like? Not so pleasant. Just curious. Anybody have that experience? Let me know in the chat if you guys have. It's a very specific memory, and often we do not forget. We do not forget, and it makes us hesitant to give that compliment again or anything similar. Dale says, that's when I realized it. When I give other people compliments, they don't accept it. I realize how others feel complimenting me. That's when I realized to change it. It's awesome. Yeah, it's like giving someone a high five and then just high fiving yourself. It's so true. It's like, hey man, wow. And that person just looks at you. I had one girlfriend in New York. She never liked the high five. So she would always leave me hanging. I was a high fiver, apparently. She was like, you high five way too much. So I'm not high fiving you back anymore. And I would just be like this in the restaurant with everybody at the bar looking at me. It was embarrassing. So yes, that's what it feels like. But that's what I want you guys to take a look at, right? Not to feel guilty or to feel bad per se, but I want you guys to just notice, oh, isn't that fascinating? What's required to receive compliments is vulnerability. And maybe now you can have a little bit of understanding and a little bit of empathy for yourself, that is part of why it's hard to let them in. But here's how I want to really, really, really tie this over to trading. If you can't receive a compliment, we're going to boil that down, guys. It means you can't receive, full stop, right? So you can't receive compliment means you can't receive. You can't receive. Why? Because to receive requires vulnerability. Let me ask all of you traders a question. How in God's name are you guys going to receive from the market, from your trades, if you already have an unconscious wall up that stops you from receiving? Do you think it operates any different? It doesn't. Energy is energy, guys. So if you are walking around unconsciously day in and day out, not receiving a stranger's compliment on a hat you're wearing, how the hell are you going to get comfortable receiving from all the hard work and effort you are putting into the market? It is going to also be uncomfortable for you. Now, at first blush, it may appear to be like crazy that that could be true. But if you've ever seen or heard the traders who find themselves doing well, all of a sudden, months later, having trades that take away that very, uh, you know, all of those successes, so to speak, where do you think that's coming from? That is the unconscious self sabotage that comes into play when we begin to feel like, ooh, this might be too much. Who do I think I am to have it be this good, for it to be this abundant, for it to be this magical? And that is, again, tying us back to that challenge that we had in our childhood. If we don't heal that ultimately state of vigilance, we are doomed to repeat it unconsciously over and over again until we heal the internal relationship we have with ourselves, that we are worthy of having more. And if you just think of that metaphor that I've told you guys before by T. Harv Eker in his Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, he says we all have a temperature set point when it comes to money until we start to investigate what is my relationship to money. But you cannot separate, guys, your relationship to money from your relationship to receiving, to your relationship to being vulnerable. If you are always going to be the one who's doing, and never being, you're not giving people, places, situations, your trades, strangers the opportunity to be a contribution to you. If you're always coming from the headspace of you have to do the work, you have to be the one who is the contributor, then it's going to be uncomfortable for you to be the recipient in any situation, including making money, including finding yourself succeeding. People think that people, when they self-sabotage, it's just doing really negative to yourself. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's way more subtle. It's way more sabotaging successes, not completely, but just enough to make sure you don't get too big for your britches. If you've ever heard that phrase, that is a gremlin phrase, right? That is there. I've talked about this before. There's a catchphrase here sometimes in Hawaii that says, stay humble and pray. I really don't like that phrase because it implies don't get too big for your britches. And that is gremlin speak 101. That is implying that you somehow better keep it in check, because who do you think you are if you start to have success, if you start to have more money than you've ever had before, or more money than your family of origin had before, or the people you consider your tribe? Who do you think you are? I've told you guys this before too. This is a famous phenomenon that happens in Australia. It's called tall poppy syndrome, where if the kid in the classroom starts to answer the questions right and keeps getting them right, the class itself and even the teacher sometimes will cut that kid down to the height of the other kids in the classroom. Why? Because they don't want that kid to become too confident. They see that as a bad thing. So they will do things to keep that kid in check. And I want you guys to consider, is it possible you have an unconscious bias to keep your own success in check? Do you have an unconscious bias to keep yourself from being too, quote unquote, confident or comfortable with yourself, or too financially secure? All of these are things that you have to bring out to the light and investigate. Doesn't mean it's a one done answer, but I want you guys to start to really think about, is it possible that I have an old story I am responding to in my life? And perhaps I haven't written the new story the way now I want to be going forward. And remember too, and I've spoke to this just, I think, even last week, money is very, very much tied to our survival. So if you have any sort of blue collar or middle class background where you watched parents or you watched family members really having to do backbreaking work to make a living, to put food on the table, or you were surrounded with that by being at a friend's house, it's possible you're going to have some kind of inappropriate relationship with what money means to you. And that also informs, at the start of this conversation, I was talking about trying too hard. Don't try too hard, because when we try too hard, it gets all jacked up. But a lot of times, I will find that the people who are trying so hard to make a lot of money often come from a poor middle class background, and they're taking the effort they watched perhaps their ancestors or family members apply to, let's say, a coal mine or apply to construction work, and try to work themselves to death, just like they watched one of their relatives or good family friends work. And that energy isn't going to serve you, not in the long term, as a trader. I'm not saying it doesn't take hard work, but the kind of work a trader needs to engage in is not going to look the same. And part of what I see happen, because traders who come from that background will feel guilty if they aren't grinding. I'm not saying it doesn't take effort and work, guys, but there is a cutoff of what grinding is going to do to benefit you. At the end of the day, if you don't have your sleep, if you don't have nutrition, if you're not having time to leave the cortisol shower that trading often produces for so many traders, you are already a sense of sabotaging yourself. And that's what I want you to really get clear on. Is there self-sabotage afoot? And how do you start to look for that quality in yourself? Not with judgment, but with a sense of curiosity and neutrality. All right, I'm going to pause there. All right. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate your life coaching, Kim. Let's help one another keep our inner gremlins away. Hope everybody presses the thumbs up button on this video. Thank you so much, Anthony. That would be great, guys. There's about 80 people here, and I get a lot of people are here from other platforms, but your thumbs up on my YouTube channel makes a surprisingly big difference. In fact, we had some transitional period. And if you guys remember, I got hit in the head with the canoe like about a month ago. And we didn't post shorts for about a month. And now we're posting shorts and we're getting like one view. We used to get like 400 views. So please, if you aren't subscribed to the Wall Street Coach with me, Kim Ann Curtin, please do subscribe to it. Please be sure to like our videos. I understand you guys are busy. You can't watch them all. But the ones you do watch and you give a thumbs up, and even better, a comment, that would be so helpful. It really makes YouTube pay attention and potentially put some of what content I do create in front of more traders. So let's absolutely try to get the word out there. Yes, of course, I want more business, but I do also want this wisdom to get into more traders' hands, because the more traders who are having these self sabotage things go by the wayside, the more opportunity there is for everybody. I don't see it as a zero sum game, guys. I see it as a very big pie that keeps being baked every day by the universe. I come from as much abundance as possible. I'm not saying I don't on occasion get tripped up and fall into scarcity. I'm human, of course I do, but I really try to come from this place of more than enough. And here's the book I'm going to speak of, that actually I'm going to recommend. It's a spiritual book, it's a counterintuitive book, but I love this book. I love my books. I read books all the time. I'm always reading books. I've read God knows how many books. I don't even know. It's got to be over 1,000, because I'm just always reading, and I'm always reading multiple books at a time. And I go home after work and I sit, I look at, which book do I want? Do I have fiction tonight? Do I want nonfiction tonight? I'm reading Mike Bellafore's books right now. I'm reading a mystery novel. What else am I reading? Oh, and I'm reading a nonfiction book called The Friendliest Survive, I think, which is all about how misrepresented Darwin and his theory of, you know, the survival of the fittest has been completely warped. He's basically was saying it was love that allowed us to survive and get to the top of the food chain. And those who say it's because we're competitive and, cut people off the knees are actually completely incorrect. And they all misrepresented what Darwin was about. So those are my 4 books currently, 4 books. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this, that books have the keys to the kingdom. These books have changed my life. They've changed my healing journey. So I am recommending these books to you all the time. But here's the thing. You don't read maybe 4 books at a time like the crazy girl that I am. So just pick the one that resonates with you. There was a conversation I had with Cars, and Cars like, this resonates with me. That's what I want you all to do. I want you to look for what resonates with you and then go down the rabbit hole, or look at the books on Amazon, look at a couple of reviews, look at the description and say, oh, that's the one that's speaking to me. But here is this book that I want to speak to on money. And I want to thank you, Tina, for being in the process of watching them all through. You're amazing. Thank you for doing that. So here's the book. Ready? This is a radical approach with money, guys. Even the title is going to be kind of like probably triggering some people. It's called It's Not Your Money. That's what it's called. It's Not Your Money. I missed the beginning. Can you post the books in chat? Yes, and it's hard for me to type too long in there, but I'm going to do that. So how are you, Stephanie? Good to have you here. It's Not Your Money. That's the title, and it's by, what is the author's name? I can't remember. That's the title. You'll definitely get her up. Her name just flew out of my head. Here is the other thing I want to share with you guys. I want you to remember to sign up for the 5 practices. I often forget to put this link in here too. Here it is. So this link will sign you up to Curtain Call, which is my weekly email. This particular link will give you a PDF for 5 weeks in a row that touch upon each of the 5 practices. Once a week, you'll get a PDF, which is kind of like a kind of Cliff Note version, if you will, of what is, each practice involves. And there's a reason I'm doing that. Why am I doing that? Because I want you guys to start to get connected to these 5 practices, because they inevitably are going to serve you and your trading. All right. So this is to sign up for it's kind of like a PowerPoint PDF, I guess, really. Yeah. All right. So I just put that up on Twitter too. So those who aren't here, Tasha Silver, that's it, Tina. It's not your money. It's a radical, radical redesigning of your relationship to money. And honestly, a redesigning your relationship to life, a redesigning your relationship to trading, a redesigning your relationship to all the desires that you have, beginning to actually trust that the universe has your back, that actually your timing may not be as perfect as the universe's timing, as the divine timing. And that I've read that book a number of times over and over again. I have a couple of catchphrases and mantras from that book that I do use regularly. And there are different times when I'll come back to that book and I'll be like, wow, I've kind of got away from it. And then I come back, which is life, right? It has peaks and valleys. We're going to have these, the waves are going to come into the shore and then the waves are going to go out. So just keep that in mind. Oh, Dale, I'm so glad that you like Curtain Call. And Dale, I want to acknowledge you and say thank you for spelling my name correctly. Nobody spells Curtain correctly, but you did. So thank you. It's nice that you haven't spelled the way I spell it. So thank you for that. So yes, do please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please take a look at some of the shorts. We've just started putting them out again. They're getting such low counts. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we're being punished by YouTube for not posting shorts for a couple of weeks. I don't know what the hell. The algorithm changes every 5 minutes. I can't keep track. But it's frustrating because we were getting like 400 views. And that made me happy because I knew more of this was getting out there. So yeah, okay, that's it. What else did I want to say today? I'm going to wrap it up. I wanted to just announce that I am going to start an acceleration course, which is small group coaching in October. And if that's something that you guys do want to sign up for, let's see here. I'm going to give it to you now. Let me just see if it's even live. Not sure if we got this. Yeah. So here it is live, but it doesn't have the date. So anyway, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to put this in the chat. You can sign up there now, but it's actually going to be launched probably mid-October, and I'm going to cap it at 10 traders. So, and it's going to be 5 weeks. I'm changing the format a little bit. I think right now this link says it's 6 weeks. It's going to be 5 weeks. There's 2 topics that we're going to take into one conversation 1 week because they kind of are 2 sides to the same coin. All right. So I'm going to leave. I don't see that I have anybody asking specifically for a topic to be coached on. Any last call, just like at the bar. This is the last call for coaching. If anybody wants to come into the room, tell me now or hold your peace till Thursday. Do I have anybody who wants something addressed in the chats? Or if not, wants to come in and have some speed coaching, I can do like 10 minutes. I need more help than you can offer here for free. Well, then, Stephanie, let's talk about working together. Let's get you some coaching. Let's get you the assessment. The assessment, guys, even if you just do the trader positioning index, I promise you guys, that is a game changer. It will at least help you narrow down where you need to look, where you need to pay attention. I find that it can feel at times like there's too much to keep track of and there's too many things to focus on. So please do yourselves a favor. Yes, there's an investment involved, but the return on investment is going to be through the roof. Take a look at all the testimonials. There it is, the Trader Positioning Index. Take a look at that sales page. Take a look at all the testimonials. I was very fortunate to get to do it with the the founding CTO of Uber, and his testimonial is up on my LinkedIn. I think it's also on my website at this point, obviously on that sales page. But he says, he specifically said when he did that assessment, his jaw hit the desk. It hit the desk, guys. This is very brilliant man, but there are invisible behaviors we all have. At least having those called out and brought into the light can make a massive difference, because then what's happening is you guys will be conscious of it. That's how change happens. First, you have to be aware. First, you have to notice. That is what that assessment does. It's very powerful. All right, Sleep Deep. I love your name. Blue collar dude here. Glad I caught you. Glad you caught me too. Sleep Deep. Glad that you're here. Thank you so much for identifying as such. I think for blue collar people, and for those who had families coming from blue collar or just a poor background or a lot of volatility, that it can be sometimes hard. Everybody has their own journey. The key is getting curious about your journey. All of us had heard stories. I came from a lot of poverty. I had a really weird childhood because I had a really bad poverty with living with my mother. And then I did weekends or every other weekend with my dad, who was financially radically different. So I was torn between putting a free lunch card in front of the lunch lady at school, and then being at a country club on the weekends. It screwed with me, guys. It really did. I felt like worthless in the place I'd lived in the weekdays, and then I felt like so incredibly wealthy on the weekend. It was very confusing. I sort of felt uncomfortable in both places because I had to like keep in mind, what did I wear? I remember once I wore these, at the time, Calvin Klein's were the hot jeans, and Brooke Shields was like, the most famous model out there. Every girl wanted the Calvin Klein jeans. I had a pair, guys, of velvet Calvin Klein jeans. God knows how expensive they were. Way, way expensive at that time, or this is the 80s. And I remember I wore them from my dad's. He took them with me because I wanted to wear them in high school, in school, middle school and high school. So I bring these velvet Calvin Klein expensive pants with me. And I'm not kidding you guys. I showed the lunch lady my free lunch card, and she literally did this. She looks me up and down like, how do you have a free lunch card? She didn't say it, but her look said it. And those pants on, right? Because it was obvious they were very expensive pants. And I was mortified. I was mortified. She gave me the damn lunch, of course. But that was when the shame really got solidified for me. I began to realize, ooh, I have to wear certain clothes when I show my free lunch card. All of that is how all the relationship stuff that I had to untangle with my relationship to money. So, Mr. Blue Collar Dude, it's possible there are stories about money you come from. There are stories you possibly have made up. There's stories your great great grandfather has about it. Immigrant kids, right? Or grandkids of immigrant kids, right? There's all different relationships our family of origin had, or our friends, the tribe we hung out with. There's some kids who never spend their days at home. One of my girlfriends, she has kids, and there's a kid from the neighborhood who's always at her house. That kid is never at her own house. My friend is basically, the surrogate mother of this poor kid, because the kid parents just aren't around. So that girl, anything she's learning in that family, she's going to take with her. Nothing is wrong with that, guys. But what you want to ask yourself is that in service to the goals you currently have? Or is it potentially undermining the goals you have? So take a deep look. Put all the beliefs you have about money on a piece of paper. Put all the beliefs you have about wealthy people on a piece of paper. If you say things that are derogatory towards rich people, guess what? You're going to find a hell of a hard time becoming rich. Because if you think people who have a lot of money or inherited wealth are somehow bad people, you're going to never want to be that bad person. So you will keep subtly sabotaging your success as a trader, sabotaging your investments, sabotaging the business deals you get yourself involved in. So keep all of that in mind. All right. I'm going to wrap it up now for real. And then I will see you guys, I'm pretty sure, I am doing this, yes, this week, but I'm doing it a little later. What is that? 1:45, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7:45 on Thursday, Eastern time. And I am looking forward to seeing those who want some coaching. But remember, guys, we got 100 people here now. 100 of you might want some speed coaching. Come to the conversation prepared for that, or call the phone number that I currently have up on my profile, 646-828-7736. That is a place where you can leave text or voicemail the challenge you're having as a trader, and then I'll take it on Thursday when I come back to do this with you all. It was great to engage with everybody here today. Good job, all of you, for being honest about the different challenges you have. That's what makes these things work, guys, is how much you guys interact. So thank you for interacting today. And I hope this was of benefit to you all. And if it was, please subscribe to the YouTube channel where you've seen this, and or connect to me on X. And always think, if the coaching could serve you, please come look at thewallstreetcoach.com. We have a lot of different packages to work with a lot of different kinds of traders who are in a position to invest. And I also have a trading EQ course, guys. That trading EQ course is at an affordable price point. So if you feel like, okay, I want to just dip my foot in the pool, you can always sign up for that. And I'm going to give you a link to the trading EQ course as well right now, so you guys can check that out and see if it's a cup of tea for you. All right, everybody, stay safe, be kind to yourselves, and I'll see you hopefully all on